Right, let's dive in to leading change. So when you read anything about leading change, it will always come back to making sure that you have a shared vision. But what I have found around developing a shared vision is it exists on paper. And what we really need to do is make that shared vision a shared understanding or shared beliefs. And so the work that I want to start with today is about how do we change beliefs about education and how do we build a shared understanding of some of the key ideas around concept-based inquiry, or around the work that you want to support in your professional learning context to be able to build to that shared vision. Then we'll look at the importance of articulating student understandings and being able to anticipate or articulate what we want our students to understand as a result of that learning. And the investment that's required in terms of time and then building leadership capacity. So a shared vision is just the beginning, but from that shared vision, we need to build a shared understanding of what that vision means. And in order to do that, I go back to some of the strategies that we use in the classroom around concept formation. So if we want to build a shared understanding of concept-based inquiry, that is a concept in itself. So some of the powerful concept formation strategies and discussion strategies that we use to engage students in the classroom can also be used with our professional learning opportunities to build a shared understanding, not just in our classrooms, but also in our staff rooms. So I want to share two very specific examples of that and of how I've used them to bring staff together and to really be able to have a conversation around what we believe about education. The first is a silent conversation. So a silent conversation is one of the strategies in our book, Concept-Based Inquiry in Action, and it provides an opportunity for educators to recognize different beliefs, values, and ideas that exist when you're teaching within your teaching faculty or the wider school community. So what that looks like in practice is that we start with a question or thinking prompt for teachers to respond to in writing. Each teacher will do that individually and silently, hence the silent conversation. Usually in a staff meeting, we'll start off with that question or prompt and give teachers about 5 minutes. It can be longer depending on what the prompt is, to just write freely. It's important that before you start that, you let teachers know that what they write will be shared with the other teachers and other faculty members, so that doesn't come as a surprise. Then make sure that they've got their name at the top of the paper. They'll swap papers with a colleague, read what their colleague has written, and respond to that written piece in writing with questions, ideas, or opinions. And then we repeat that process, swapping papers 2 or 3 more times. The reason that this is so powerful is, just like the classroom, in the staff room, there tend to be some voices that are louder than others, some people who don't necessarily jump in and share their thinking. And this is a way of engaging everybody in that conversation, engaging everybody in sharing their thinking, in exchanging ideas. And it will also highlight when, as a staff, you are on the same page or your beliefs are common, and when they're not, and give you an opportunity in a really respectful environment to be able to challenge each other on your thinking, to be able to share new ideas. I love to then be able to pin these on the wall in the staff room or faculty lounge so that people can read them over the following weeks. So let's look at some examples of the way that these can be used. One of my favorite silent conversations is what is curriculum, or silent conversation prompts is what is curriculum. And I find that when we start with that, what is curriculum and what does it mean, you will find as many different responses as there are teachers in the room. And that's really powerful to go, wow, we don't yet have a shared understanding of what we mean by curriculum, yet we're doing a lot of work in curriculum design. So it gives you an opportunity for teachers to step back and go, This is significant that we don't all have a shared understanding of this, which lays the foundation for teachers engaging in further professional learning around it. We can also use a prompt like, what is the role of facts in a concept-based inquiry classroom? And invite teachers to share and debate the importance of facts and skills in a classroom. We could ask, what does inquiry learning look like? And invite teachers to respond in the written form to that, or to annotate each other's thinking, to share ideas there. Or how could we revise current timetables to better facilitate student learning and opportunities for collaborative planning? So I put this one in as I think it's really important when there's an issue in a school where there's something like collaborative planning not working effectively because of timetables blocking it up. Often it's put to the school leaders to solve that problem. But the silent conversation can be used as an opportunity to explore possibility thinking. Who's got ideas on this, of what changes we could make, which ones are possible, which ones are feasible, giving each other an opportunity to give feedback on those suggestions, to say, I love this idea, or yes, but that would have a flow-on effect here, can be a really powerful way to explore possibilities for change. And as I said at the beginning, that silent conversation is an invitation for every single person in the room to contribute to that discussion. So let's have a look at another strategy that I love to use as a part of a way of building that shared understanding, and that is the four-corner debate. The four-corner debate, again, will recognize different beliefs, values, and ideas that exist within your teaching faculty and or the wider community. Teachers are invited to take a stance on a statement designed to create debate or expose opposing views. So we set up the classroom or the staff room with four corners. I strongly agree, I disagree, I strongly disagree, just as we would do in the classroom. And from there, we share debate statements, and I'll give you some examples in a minute, and really encourage a respectful debate around these issues. I love to use a four-corner debate when I know that there's something that's not quite working in the school, and I don't want that to come from me expressly. I want teachers to come to realize that themselves and own that problem or issue so that they're then on board with changes that need to take place. I often use a four-corner debate when it's time to review curriculum, and I know that there'll be some resistance to change, where teachers love the units that they're teaching, but aren't necessarily seeing the bigger picture of the implications for students, where there's lots of repeats or gaps in the curriculum, and we need to actually change the units that are being taught. But I want teachers to own and be on board with that change. So a four-corner debate can really help to bring everyone on board with that change and really have them saying to you, we've got a problem here, we need to make some changes. So I'll give you an example of a few debate prompts that we can use. And then if you've used the four-corner debate in your staff room, I would love for you to share in the chat any debate prompts that you used with staff to share some more ideas around this. So one of the four-corner debates that I've done before are what current opportunities are, they've got to be a statement. So current opportunities for collaborative planning are meaningful and effective. So this is a good one to challenge if we find that collaborative planning is happening, especially if we're thinking about primary and elementary teachers where we have a collaborative planning opportunity with specialist teachers. If you know that that's not working for everybody, putting this out there as a debate statement gives people a voice to say what's working well and what's not, because they can strongly agree with this or they can strongly disagree with this, and it's an opportunity to say why in a respectful environment. Another one might be open inquiry is better than structured inquiry. So again, an opportunity to really explore what do we mean by inquiry? What's our current understanding of inquiry? And do we all agree? Or we should look for as many opportunities as possible for interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary learning. Do we agree with that? Do we disagree with that? Out of interest, let's have a debate ourselves in the chat box. So let's take that last statement. We should look for as many opportunities as possible for interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary learning. If you strongly agree with that, give me a 1 in the chat. If you agree with that, give me a 2. If you disagree, a 3. And strongly disagree, a 4. Let's just see how, if we were a large staff, a global staff coming together, to see if we would get consistency around our beliefs of that, or if we would have different ideas from different parts of the world. Let me know in the chat. And then as you're popping those in, I know there's a slight delay on the chat coming through now, 1s and 2s mostly. The 3 there, disagree. The 3's coming through now. All right, lots of 1s and 2s. Of 3s. Quite often what we see once we start to debate this, the way the debate works is that we'll stand in a corner that best represents our thinking, and then you ask teachers to turn and talk to the person next to them who's in the same corner as them and share why they're standing where they are. That gives people, that gives people an opportunity to consolidate their thinking before they're asked to share with the group. And it also gives everybody a chance to talk and share their ideas. So we can use this in the classroom. We can also use this in the staff room. And I love Nicole's already starting to debate too. I agree. Look for them, but don't force it. And so there's that qualifier in there. And what you often find is there's quite a lot of common ground between those who agree and those who disagree. And it's just about how they interpret words like should, and whether or not, but don't force it, is that idea of I agree. And you might have someone saying, I disagree, but, it's great if there is, but we don't want to force it. And so you will see that similarity. It gives everybody a chance for that discussion and that clarification on what do we believe in. We might then go on to say, well, okay, great. So we all believe that, but what does it even mean? What does transdisciplinary learning mean? Or what does interdisciplinary learning mean? And then we can use other concept formation strategies that are in the book, like create and combine, to explore that further. Sumit, great to see you. I used that on the second day for a workshop with a prompt like concepts come from knowledge and not skills. I had 5 of such prompts. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. So they are really powerful to use with teachers, and you need to be using your knowledge of the group of teachers. Each time I would do it with staff, I would change depending on the context that I'm working in, the prompts that we are using. Is especially powerful, as I said before, if you want to set teachers up for change. When I was working with my local school here, they were all teaching units on the same concept. So every grade level would teach the same unit at the same time so that they had opportunities to collaborate cross-grade. And I knew that that was creating some issues because it meant that the teachers never got to revisit the same unit. They always, every single term, had to create a brand new unit. And so given that the basis for that was cross-grade collaboration or cross-year level collaboration, we tested that. So we had, as part of our 4-corner debate, one of the statements was the sharing the same concept as the basis for our units means we are regularly taking part in cross-year level or cross-grade collaboration. And almost everybody disagreed with it. They said, well, that was the intent of it, but we're not doing it, which then laid the foundation for, if that's the intent and we're not doing it, is there an opportunity for change? So that's one of the really powerful ways that we can start to bring people on board for change, is to actually use some of these strategies that we would use with our students in staff meetings to give teachers a voice in that change process, to allow them to share their beliefs, to debate their ideas. It will show some teachers who sometimes are the loudest voices that they're actually teachers in the minority, and the other teachers have different beliefs about education to them, and that's okay. But it helps teachers to see why change is necessary. All right. And then the final strategy that I love to use to support teachers in really building a shared understanding is model lessons. We use model lessons as part of our Trainer Certification Institute, and we use model lessons at our conference. All of our certified trainers led a model lesson every day because it's such a powerful way for teachers to experience for themselves what a concept-based inquiry classroom looks like and feels like. Because when we can explore those strategies together, we can then think about why did you experience that lesson the way that you did? So when we have a model lesson, we teach our teachers as if they are students in the lesson. Sometimes we can do that around ideas around sort of differentiation or assessment, but often we don't. Often we'll pick a topic that might be explored by our students and run a model lesson there using a range of inquiry-based strategies so that teachers experience that, and then we'll debrief at the end of the lesson. So what was the intent of that piece of the lesson? How did that help you to build a shared understanding of the concept? How did we use case studies in these lessons? How could we explore that use of case studies in different ways in the classroom? What would we do to adapt that learning engagement for younger students? All of that provides really rich opportunities for teachers to go, this is the way that I'm being asked to teach. How is this the same or different from what you're doing in your classroom? Because we do want to give teachers opportunities to say, yeah, I already do those things. Which part of the lesson was different? Because the reality is that to build to conceptual understandings or build to generalizations only takes such a small amount of the whole lesson. But if we stop short of that, it's that last... I didn't get that. Oh, thanks, sorry. It's that last 5 or 10 minutes. If we stop short of that, we're robbing students of the opportunity to articulate thinking for themselves. I'm saying one of the best things to experience, power of a pedagogical model. So my challenge to you as school leaders is to really think about how you could utilize model lessons the next time that you are leading professional learning. It's such a powerful way to bring teachers on board and help show them what this looks like, especially if you're working in a context where a much more traditional approach has been used. But I find that even our most experienced concept-based inquiry educators, even myself included, get so much out of watching somebody else use these strategies and the way that they choose strategies and use them. Carla and I were both at the concept-based inquiry conference and really loved going into the model lessons and seeing the way people had taken some of the strategies that we had written about and adapted and modified them. And some of them, in our book, we have a little indicator at the top of the pages here. It looks like this, which says, we suggest that this is a great strategy for younger learners. And we really loved going, wow, we thought that we would mostly have that used with younger learners, but, they're using this with adults and look how powerful it is. So being able to support teachers and seeing what it looks like is amazing. All right. So does your school create, let me know in the chat, does your school create opportunities for model lessons as part of your professional learning? I would love to hear from you either way. So let me know if it's a yes, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what the model lesson was about. And if it's a no, just put not yet, just so we can get a sense. I really love when we do masterclasses over time. In another year or so, I'll ask the same question, who's using model lessons? And we see slowly over time, some of these statistics start to change. Mary's saying yes, Michelle is saying yes, Sandeep saying yes, fantastic. So lots of opportunities for model lessons happening in the schools around the world. A few no's, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. Yes, both in team meetings and whole school. Somebody said, does the Institute provide videos of these kinds of model lessons? We haven't videoed the lessons, the model lessons, but what we do have during the Trainer Certification Institute is that you participate in model lessons in different subject areas. So we have a mathematics model lesson, we have a science model lesson, we have a social studies model lesson, an English language arts model lesson, and a world language model lesson, which has, last year, Rafael Angel ran that and had everybody speaking Spanish, which is a lot of fun. Nick Carmen, I love it, almost. We didn't get a not yet, we had an almost. I can't wait to hear, Nick, how that works out at Ish. Juliet's using strategies at every opportunity. Yes, but sometimes a small part of the lesson and not the whole lesson. Trying to get more time for it. Nicole, that's a really great point because a good model lesson typically takes at least 90 minutes to 2 hours. And so that can be a challenge to fit in a 60-minute staff meeting. But as I just suggested, sometimes a full corner debate will take up the whole staff meeting, or I might start with a silent discussion and then go into a full corner debate. So we don't always work right through the full inquiry model in every staff meeting. So that is something to be aware of. Yes, a high diploma program, not directly related to CBI. Raphael is great. He is great, isn't he, Amparo? Our school's just rewritten our professional growth systems, which includes classroom visits and model lessons. That is so exciting to hear, Evelyn. Classroom visits is another really powerful strategy to explore. And Michelle's saying, find your early adopters, Nick Carmen. Absolutely. We had someone come to do PD and one of them was a model lesson. We'd love to see it happening among colleagues. Absolutely. So the other powerful strategy, as we just mentioned, is classroom visits and setting up a system to make sure that happens regularly. So I've worked in schools before where they actually book a substitute teacher and have the substitute teacher available for a week, and teachers can book in times to have the opportunity to have the reliever come in so that they can then go and visit other classrooms. And that's powerful being observed and getting feedback, but it's also a powerful opportunity to go and observe your colleagues in other classrooms. Also, videoing yourself teaching and getting feedback is another powerful strategy to build understanding. Yeah, visits is important too, absolutely. It's not exploited as a learning opportunity, so teachers feel weary. That's really important too, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing that. That we have to create a culture, just like we do in our classrooms, creating a classroom culture that feels safe for learning. We need to be aware that those classroom visits aren't there for assessment purposes. Yes, we might want to have classroom visits as part of a teacher appraisal, but there are other purposes for classroom visits that aren't a part of being assessed, and it's important to have teachers who are not involved in appraising each other, visiting each other as part of their learning journey. So Courtney's saying, what's the difference between a model lesson and a lab site where teachers from a grade level or group go to visit the classroom to watch a model lesson and have time to debrief afterwards? Great question, Courtney. So when I'm referring to model lessons, I'm actually talking about the lesson happening in the staff room and the teachers take on the role of the student in the lesson. So there aren't any students from our classrooms, any primary or secondary age students. The teachers become the students in the lesson. The reason why that's so powerful is you experience what it's like as a learner to build understanding, and you're actually able to say, what was it that helped me as a learner to see those patterns, to make those connections, to be able to answer those questions, which is quite different from observing students seeing patterns and making connections. Both are powerful, but we want to explore opportunities for teachers to participate as a learner as well as observe learners. Great question. All right. Any other questions before I move on to the next section? You can just throw them in the chat there. These are really, really great questions in the chat tonight. Thank you for sharing your own experiences. This is something that I'll try and use in our new school year. Some saying, yes, we are using it in primary, but not yet in middle and high school. It can be challenging. That's a good point, actually, for middle and high school, because it feels like it may not be relevant for other disciplines. So why would we have everybody participate, for example, in a music lesson, or have everybody participate in a maths lesson if they're teaching English language arts? But one of the big pieces of feedback that we get in our institute, because people are taking part in 5 different model lessons, is that often the most learning comes from other subject areas where they actually feel more like a learner themselves. So putting you outside your own comfort area and the subject that you teach helps people to really move into that learner. So sometimes as adults, when we move back into a maths lesson that maybe we haven't been in a maths lesson ourselves since we were at school, it really puts us into the experience that our learners have. And so that's very different from if, say, you were an English language arts teacher and you were experiencing an English language arts lesson. You experience it in quite a different way. So sharing model lessons in different subject areas is a really important part of that process. All right. So the next piece is around designing units. How do we make unit planning more meaningful and intentional? This comes back to designing conceptual understandings, building an articulated learning journey for our students. So there are those that debate that it should be all student-led, but I firmly believe that we have a curriculum to cover, and that if we only responded to student-led, there would be massive gaps in their learning along the way. And we need to be able to articulate as educators what we want our students to understand each year that they're working with us, to make sure that they're getting broad coverage of the curriculum. So we do that through designing units with conceptual understandings. Now, let me know in the chat box if you design units currently that have one understanding. So that might be a central idea, or that might be a statement of inquiry or a big idea. If you have an overarching understanding for the units that you're developing. Here's an example. This one comes from a 12th grade unit designed by Rasha Al-Hagan. And the conceptual understanding is a line of reasoning relates ideas within an argument through logical connections between the claim, evidence, and commentary. So that's an example of an overarching understanding that we might use to guide our units. We do, yes, yes. Statement of inquiry. Yes. Yes. All right, so for many years, that's what I did too. We would have one conceptual understanding in a unit. But if we really want to move to a concept-based approach in our school, we need to be thinking beyond one understanding. And I'm seeing some no's in the chat, not anymore. All right, so I'm hoping that for those no's, that means you're building out more conceptual understandings. Nicole's saying 6 to 8, Becky's saying 5 to 7. So we do recommend that in a concept-based classroom that we articulate 5 to 9 understandings in a unit. So I want you to think about the difference between having that one first understanding or having a unit that you're about to teach which has 5 understandings for the unit. So in addition to a line of reasoning, we've also got writers can develop a deductive, inductive, causal, and or comparative line of reasoning that connects the claim evidence. And logical fallacies result in flaws in the line of reasoning which may render an argument specious or illogical and can lead to the writer's loss of credibility. And narration couples with reliable sources, appeals to audience emotions, supports a position in an argument, and or illustrates a challenging concept. And to establish credibility and validate their claims, writers synthesize expert voices and ideas from other sources, acknowledging them through attribution, citation, and references. Can you see how powerful that is to move from understanding just one idea in a unit to having these 5 ideas as the basis for our unit? From a teacher's perspective, moving from one idea in a unit to 5 to 9 ideas in a unit brings so much clarity and focus. So yes, it takes more time to plan, but the clarity that brings for teachers in terms of this is what I'm teaching in this unit is incredible. And it makes the whole planning process so much more purposeful. Let's take a look together at a couple more examples. So we could have a unit on our solar system with an understanding that patterns in the movement of moons, planets, stars can be observed, described, and predicted as one overarching understanding. But look what happens when we start to articulate more of the understandings in the unit. Planets create a clear path to orbit their star or stars and contain enough gravity to form a spherical shape. Space junk or space debris left behind by humans can endanger future space missions. Moons orbit bodies like planets, dwarf planets, or asteroids that already orbit a star. The tilt of a planet's axis, the shape of its orbit, its atmosphere, its average distance from the star contribute to the weather and seasons on a planet. Now, the reason I wanted to share this one today is so many times when we see units around our solar system, the conceptual understandings are not actually conceptual because they refer to things like Earth, which is just one place. When we talk about locked in time, place, or situation, when we're referring to Earth in a solar system unit, we're locking that into one planet, one example. When we're referring to the sun is just one star. So in order to understand our solar system and other stellar systems, we need to be able to draw out from those factual examples of the Earth, the sun, bigger conceptual ideas here. And that's what we've done here. We've moved from the sun, determining the weather on Earth, to actually understanding how weather and seasons are created on any planet. Okay? So moving to that conceptual level helps us take that factual exploration of our solar system and apply it in a much broader concept and much deeper understanding. So moving again from that single understanding here, patterns in the movement of moon, planet, and stars can be observed, described, and predicted. That's really big and overarching. But when we get down into more of the micro concepts, we've got so much more depth of understanding. One last one. So again, in mathematics, building out what are the understandings within this unit. We might have one understanding, like people measure different attributes depending on the information they need. This one's actually some examples from the concept-based inquiry mathematics project. So Rehan's asking, do you mean chunking the main idea into sub-ideas? Yes and no. In German, we would say Jein, Rehan. So yes, some of the ideas will fit under that broader idea, but we might also have additional understandings in different subject areas. So we might have one that's on literacy that falls into the unit. So it's really going beyond just one idea to saying, broadly, what do we want students to understand in this unit? Okay, and that can be much more broad than just that idea. Our students are capable of building more than one understanding if we're studying for 6 to 8 weeks. Preeti is saying the different lines of inquiry. No, I don't put them into the lines of inquiry. And the reason for that is if you are using lines of inquiry, the lines of inquiry for me define the case studies. What is the content that we'll be exploring in order to understand these bigger ideas? So in order to see any patterns and make connections, we need to explore factual examples or case studies. That's what I define in the lines of inquiry. What will we be learning about? The conceptual understandings are what we want students to understand as a result of that inquiry. And we use an inductive approach, which means we use our guiding questions to build to that understanding. So I've done other masterclasses, and I'll continue to do other masterclasses on how we teach to that understanding. But today, really, when we're thinking about leading change, a big step in that leading change is pausing and asking ourselves as educators, what do I want my students to understand as a result of the 6 to 8 weeks of learning? Okay. Today's focus isn't on how do we teach it, but asking ourselves, being able to lead that change by pausing as a team to say, if we're going to sit down and plan this unit, the first thing that we need to be very clear on is, what do we want our students to understand? We'll choose our topic. From that topic, we'll build out the understandings. So that example from maths, we move from that one understanding about measurement to 5 understandings. People decide whether to estimate or measure with a tool based on the needs of the situation. You can see how that's actually a different idea. That's not people measure different attributes. We're now talking about a new concept, estimation. And when do we estimate? And when do we actually pull out a tool? When do we need to weigh it or get out a tape measure? And when can we say, it's about 3 meters? Another understanding would be, in order to estimate measurements, people use reference, such as known size of familiar objects or standard units of measure. Or people can copy a design by replicating the original measurements. You can see here, not a repeat of the ideas before. It's a new idea. We're now talking about this concept of copying a design and replicating measurements. And then finally, people can use place value to convert between related units of measure. So if we had just built this understanding in that unit, this first one, we're doing our students a disservice. We're selling them short. There's more that we want our students to understand, and we need to be able to articulate as educators what that is. Amparo was saying, would you connect each line with a subject or key study? No, not necessarily, Amparo, and the reason for that is that we would have, often the same case study could be used to support multiple understandings, particularly if we're thinking about science and social studies. If we were studying ecosystems, for example, different students studied different ecosystems, that might then support multiple understandings. I think that's what you're asking. Conceptual understanding is more invisible and abstract. Concepts come from visible facts and information. Is that it? No. So the conceptual understanding, although it is abstract, the conceptual understanding needs to be drawn from case studies and from factual examples. So yes, first we would build an understanding of the concept, but in order to understand or build conceptual understanding, we need to ground that in examples. So we'll start by asking factual questions and then build to our conceptual questions. So the next step in that planning process would be to build out the guiding questions. Tense and pronouns determine verb endings. So as we build these out, what you'll find a shift in teachers' attitude to planning. So for teachers who in the past had felt like unit planning was just another task to be done, it was just a whole bunch of boxes to fill in. As soon as we move from just one understanding to multiple understandings in a unit, it brings clarity. So let me know, at the beginning I said, do you have just one? Let me know those of you who are using 5 to 9 understandings in each unit across the curriculum. So you're doing that for maybe your unit of inquiry and your maths and your literacy, or for our middle and high school teachers, you're doing that for your grade 6, your grade 7, your grade 8 classrooms, that you're building out 5 to 9 understandings for each unit that you teach. Let me know where you're up to in that learning journey. Are you not quite at 5 to 9? Are you only doing it in some subject areas? Even if you're just doing one, are you just doing that in a unit of inquiry? Or are you doing it across different subject areas and exploring what that's like? I would really love to hear what your common experience is. what your individual experiences are. It helps to kind of give me a sense and a check-in of what's happening around the world at the moment. Ruba's saying, yes, it makes planning so meaningful and purposeful. So nice to connect again, Ruba. Always lovely to see you. Using the related concepts to build connections across subjects. Fantastic, Sandeep. So we do also want to go a little bit further than just making the related concepts the connections across subjects. We actually want to use the topic to be making connections around the content. So rather than all studying change, we want to all be studying something like climate change. So we're studying climate change from the perspective of different disciplines rather than just change. Our school is brand new to this, so we don't have yet any central ideas or statements of inquiry. Laura, you're in a good spot though, because now you can start to use these strategies to build out a need for this and to build out a shared understanding. I'm looking forward to working with you on the trainer certification. I know you're already signed up, so that's exciting. Getting there, about 4 across all subject areas at the moment. 1 idea for each unit. Yes, we've moved to interdisciplinary units, multiple conceptual understandings, 5 to 9. Amazing, Mike. 5 to 9, all subject areas and grades. That's amazing, Amy. That's so exciting to hear. Having visited your school quite a few times in the past, it's great to hear that's where you're up to now. I've been using related concepts. Great, Kisa. So the next step now is to start to explore the relationships between those concepts to build out conceptual understandings. Just starting the MYP journey, so I'll bring this idea into our initial conversations. Fantastic, Penny. It's a great way to actually start. So moving beyond just one statement of inquiry to articulating what we want our students to understand. And Penny, we're not going into a lot of detail today around inductive teaching, but that would be the next thing for you to explore. Avita saying yes with the younger students, 4-year-olds, having a couple of classes a week, tend to have 3 to 4 understandings. Fair enough. Not yet, 5 to 7. All right, great to see that we're already seeing those transformations in schools around the world and the clarity that that's bringing you. So having 5 to 9 conceptual understandings gives clear direction and clear intent to our students, to our teachers rather. It helps to develop rigor and meet the demands of a robust curriculum. It makes unit planning more meaningful and intentional by providing clarity. And our students are capable of more. They're capable of more than one idea, and they really light up. It gives students so much agency to be making sense and seeing these patterns and making connections. All right, so what are the implications for that? Moving from just one understanding or not having understandings in our unit, what does that look like? What is the journey to that process? So what do school leaders need to do to support and honour this work that's involved in unit design? Firstly, recognizing the time curriculum design takes. That means building time for collaborative planning in our weekly timetables and creating the time and space for extended planning. So I find that often primary or elementary schools do a pretty good job of creating opportunities for collaborative planning across grade level, within a grade level. When I was working at Frankfurt International School, we really prioritized that and actually created a way for our primary teachers to have a collaborative planning block that was common every day. So it meant all of the students went out to specialists at the same time across the grade level, which gave teachers extended opportunities for collaborative planning. I know that's not possible in smaller schools where you don't have enough specialist teachers to be able to cover that flexibly. But if you can, being able to provide as much time as possible for teachers in the same year level to work collaboratively is so important. But it's not enough. So just having collaborative planning time during the week isn't enough to make that change. We also need to create time and space for existing and extended planning. And I want to show you why that's important by looking at my own calendar. So when I was thinking about preparing for this masterclass, I have days in my calendar that look like this, where I have a series of coaching calls, often starting quite early in the morning because I'm working with people in different time zones, and then dropping the kids off at school. I get in and review our concept-based inquiry mathematics project, team meeting, and then I've got a block of time here where I could put preparation for masterclass in. I could put it in again here because there's another 45 minutes in there, but I don't. I don't try and squeeze in things like collaborative planning into, planning and preparation for a presentation into an hour. It just doesn't work for me because by the time I've settled into it, I already have to move on to the next task and I don't get the momentum that I need. The same is true for our teachers. Often our school leadership and our curriculum coordinators do have more flexibility in their timetables, but our teachers obviously don't. They're in the classroom. So we need to be able to carve out extended blocks of time. When I plan a masterclass, I don't start my day with meetings and then this week we're out the door at 7:30 and all out for a walk. And then it gives me an opportunity to plan for a masterclass like this, an extended block of time where I can immerse myself in that planning and preparation without disruption. If we're asking teachers to design curriculum, we need to give them the time and respect for that too. So when I was working as a curriculum coordinator, if we were designing a brand new unit, we would release teachers for a whole day from the classroom so that they could design that unit. If teachers were working on a unit that they'd designed before, we did everything we could to release them for a half day to plan that unit. Because articulating the 5 to 9 understandings won't take place in 45 minutes. I can assure you, even those of us who've been doing this for years and years now could not plan an entire set of generalizations in a 45-minute block. In a whole day, you still won't get through all of the planning for that day. You'll probably get through your understandings, your questions, your knowledge and skills, and your assessment. And you'll need that opportunity for weekly collaborative planning time to be designing the learning experiences and responding to student interest, responding to student assessments that we're working along the way, so that we can support students in their own inquiry and their own guiding questions as well. So as school leaders, we need to plan for that time. We need to find creative ways to release our teachers from the classroom or use callback or professional learning days. Here in New Zealand, we have 10 days a year on top of the time that we're in classrooms that are available for callback days where teachers can be planning or involved in professional learning. We need to figure out how to build that into our curriculum. Now, I mentioned that was something that we did when I was working as a curriculum coordinator, but I used to go and request that time from the principal with a solution. I didn't just go along and say, hey, we really need to release the first grade next week for a whole day. I would go in and say, we need to release first grade this week, and here's 2 or 3 different ideas on how we could do that if we don't have enough substitute teachers available. I've also worked in schools where there just are no substitute teachers. They're not available. And so we would need to be even more creative then in terms of what will the students be doing that's purposeful and meaningful for that day, and not just doubling them into another classroom or putting the responsibility onto a teaching assistant to teach the students for the day. So sometimes that looked like what we would call crash the schedule for the day, and we would have specialist teachers involved in different ways where they might not be involved in the other classrooms, or that might happen. We might create a special technology challenge that the assistant principal and the librarian would run with that grade level so that they were still engaged in meaningful learning. I would love to hear again in the chat how you provide opportunities for longer blocks of time for collaborative planning in your school if you're already doing that. What does that look like? We want some really practical, creative ideas on being able to support teachers in finding extended periods of time for collaborative planning. In the chat. And if you're not yet getting it at your school, let us know that too. Are you currently having opportunities for extended planning time? I would also love to hear that in the chat. There is a little bit of a delay on the chat as I'm just watching that come through. I also assume that some of those responses might take a little bit more typing from some of you. Just love to know how much this is common practice in schools around the world, because it's so important, the time that it takes to think creatively in as part of curriculum design. We also discovered this when we were building out the concept-based inquiry mathematics project. What we thought would take us 6 months ended up taking 2 years to design those units and design that curriculum, and the writing of the scope and sequence also took us 2 or 3 years. So hard when you're a specialist teacher and 7 different grades and each of them is teaching. Yeah, absolutely, it's hard. And so we do need to be thinking about that in terms of also how many preps teachers have. We're in the early adopting stage. Yes, we do. Brand new school that opened in Jan, working on building our curriculum. Such a great opportunity to implement CBI from the start. That is amazing, Nicole, to be able to get that going in a brand new school. We're starting our journey. Our school is brand new as well. Isabel and Nicole, you need to connect, and Evelyn, who's also starting a new school. You need to connect and be networking together to support each other in that journey. If anybody else is starting a new school, put your private message each other. So we've got Nicole, Isabel, Evelyn. You all need to private message each other on that journey, because there are challenges with starting a new school. But I'm so excited to hear the number of new schools that are starting. I was talking to somebody yesterday who's just finished the trainer certification, who's also saying, I'm moving to a new school and it's my job to write a concept-based curriculum. Actually, no, mostly. Some units are planned with 5 to 9 early in the journey. Danielle's saying, my head of school says she'd like to sort out the curriculum before we move to CBI. What can I say to her? Danielle, your CBI is the curriculum. And so at the very foundation of your written curriculum is the understandings, knowledge, and skills. So the very first thing we want to be designing when we're sorting out the curriculum or writing the curriculum is concept-based inquiry. Now, if you say when we're thinking about sorting out the curriculum, you're just deciding on the topics that need to be taught, absolutely. We do start in a concept-based curriculum model with topics. So we would need to say, look, that grade 4 are going to teach matter, grade 5 are going to teach forces and energy, grade 2 are going to teach the human body, whatever it is. I'm making it up, so don't take those as serious suggestions. But if that's the case, then we really need to be able to, once we've got that in place, the next step is to design the curriculum conceptually. Michelle, Danielle, we started planning CBI units first and use this to help build our curriculum. Absolutely. So you can do that. You can use the concept-based inquiry unit, as Michelle is suggesting, as a way to then extract the 5 to 9 conceptual understandings, which become your curriculum. So instead of the pressure of having a whole science curriculum written or a whole social studies curriculum written, or if you're working in middle school, your history curriculum written, design your units and extract the understandings, knowledge, and skills from those units. You've got your curriculum written, and that's much more manageable chunks. You have to allow time for this to happen. Michelle's saying we rejiggled our timetable. So Michelle, I'd love to hear more about what that looked like. My current school releases teachers 5 days a year to plan their units of inquiry. Awesome to hear that, Evelyn. Hopefully you'll be able to continue that in your next position. I don't believe that conceptual understanding and language acquisition is only related to grammar. It's absolutely not. You're right, Carolyn. I imagine more concepts such as audience, purpose, context. But I wonder how this can be done in the initial phases. Absolutely. So we do want it, that's part of building out a conceptual web, to be thinking beyond just grammar, for sure. We're lucky to have lucky in 1 or 2 teacher-only days before the start of term, get 90 minutes. Oh, no, Rich, you need to be advocating for more time than 90 minutes to plan it. Teach 3 years of MYP and 2 years of DP. So go in and ask. So many teachers, until you ask, you don't know. So go in and ask your school leadership and say, look, I would like a day. This is how I'm going to use it. This is how I think we can provide cover so that it doesn't fall to other teachers to pick up those classes. This is what we're going to do, and then I'll show you my unit planner at the end of the day, because we have to allow teachers extended. We're exploring ChatGPT as a time saver and a game changer. ChatGPT can be great when we're starting to plan, but you have to really know what you're looking for, because I've seen teachers use ChatGPT to write generalizations, and the generalizations aren't generalizations or conceptual understandings. So yes, it can be great as long as, like any tool, used within the right hands, as long as you can extract the concepts from that and sometimes rework them, then you by all means use AI to help you with your thinking. We do great at grade level, but struggle to collaborate across grades. Well, that's a great start that you're doing well at the grade levels. Finding opportunities for articulating that curriculum. That's also why the written curriculum is so important, because if we know, we've done this with our maths teachers, we brought together our first grade and our second grade teachers who actually worked at different campuses. We had a primary and an elementary campus, and so there was that disconnect. But when they had their 5 to 9 understandings recorded, they could then compare them. So by being able to see the 5 to 9 understandings, they could see actually there were some understandings that were more complex in first grade than they were in second grade. So it actually created a really beautiful opportunity for rich discussion about, well, do we need to stop a little bit earlier in first grade, or do we need to be pushing further in second grade? Because we could see that. It also creates beautiful opportunities to explore the connection between what's happening in primary and what's happening in middle or high school when the units are the same. Almost every school that I work with around the world has a unit about migration in primary and a unit about migration in the middle school, and yet the two often don't know what the content of each is. If you just share one central idea in those units, a central idea in a statement of inquiry, it's really hard to know if there's new learning happening. But if you're sharing, these are the 5 to 9 understandings that we work on in elementary, these are the 5 to 9 understandings that we work on in middle school, it's very easy to start to say, well, is this a learning progression, or is this just a repeat of some of the learning that's already happened? Are we going too far in primary? Should we take this understanding and push it through to middle school? Or actually in middle school, do we need to raise the bar? So having those 5 to 9 understandings there creates that opportunity for discussion. One subject at a time, half a day's release, great start. Yep, keep going, keep advocating for a little more time. There's a common free period for all departments for meetings and planning. We do PD and planning before the opening school for a week. For a week is great. But it's kind of early to be planning your whole year's learning in 1 week. So just be aware of that. Half-day retreats for new units. That's awesome, Courtney. See if you can bump it up to a day. We work in 1 hour blocks of the timetable, played around until we could offer 3 hours per week. That's amazing. Small school, it worked. We also had some half days. We have opportunity, but it's not used for planning. It's more for admin meeting, which is a great, so actually, Danielle, that's a really great point when you've got 90-minute meetings, but then they start getting pulled up with admin. So one of the things that we did to address that was create a internal staff website to put notices and admin onto. And that really helped to, every day there was a new post from the principal. She was amazing. Carolyn Jocelyn Callahan would create a post every day for teachers, so they knew they had to read that post daily. And then we could put a lot more onto that website and not have to use staff meetings for announcements and admin, which gave us a lot more time in staff meetings. Staff can apply for lessons to be covered in order to visit classrooms or engaged in more sustained planning. Awesome, Simon. That's fantastic. No casual teachers in Sydney. Makes it hard to give more than an hour block here and there. So Nicole, we had that issue too when I was working in Egypt. There were no relievers at all. That was where we got really creative. So like I said, we would use, one day it was the principal and the assistant principal took all of 4th grade to for the day and did some planning with that, because they wanted to show teachers that they really valued that planning process. And actually I had the whole team come to my house, so that not only were we did we have the day, we were also off campus and away from interruptions. You don't necessarily have to go to that extreme to invite people to your house if you don't want to, but getting off site can also be really powerful. Otherwise, you suddenly have teachers who go, oh, I've got a duty that I forgot to cover, or something will happen with one of the students. If you're not there, you'll have much more focused time. All right. So great. Thank you for sharing in the chat. There's more comments than I can possibly share and read, but I'm so excited to see that schools are trying to make the commitment to that. If you are not getting any time in your school, maybe copy and paste some of these comments while you're here in the chat to go back and show your leadership that this is something that is happening in other schools. It's something that we need to advocate for. But remember what I said, we go in with solutions, not just problems. It's not on the principal to figure out how to release teachers, especially if there are no substitute teachers. You've got to get creative with opportunities for different kinds of release that gets covered in different ways that still give students meaningful opportunities. It shouldn't be a day of lost learning for students. Alrighty. So, and the other piece of what school leaders need to do to support and honour the work that's involved in unit design is in building leadership capacity in schools. So, in the past, there have been a few options for this. There's a spelling mistake there, I apologise. So, option 1, internal professional development. You have somebody in your school lead professional development. Usually that's in the form of staff meetings. Option 2, you go out and attend a workshop. And option 3, you bring in a consultant who comes in and works with the school for 2 or 3 days usually. Sometimes they might stay for a week and do planning with teams. But all of these ideas have some limitations, or all of these options have some limitations in terms of the long-term sustainability in really creating or transforming what's happening in schools. That's why Dr. Erickson and Dr. Lanning developed the Concept-Based Curriculum and Instruction Trainer Certification Institute to be building capacity of leaders in schools and building the capacity of consultants. So I want to share with you a video that we've created that explores or that shares the information about the Concept-Based Curriculum and Instruction Trainer Certification. And for anybody who has participated in the Erickson and Lanning CBCI Trainer Certification Institute, I see some familiar names. If you can share your experience in the group as we're playing that video, just to give people some more information about that. Concept-based curriculum and instruction is gaining momentum around the world as schools recognise the value of this powerful approach that develops students' ability to think critically while preparing them to apply what they learn in schools to the diverse and novel contexts of modern society. But too many educators are struggling. There are so many misconceptions out there that are leaving teachers feeling confused about how to transform their practice and unlock the power of a concept-based approach. All too often, people are reading a couple of chapters of a book and then going out there to lead a workshop on material that they really don't understand themselves. There's a very real risk that without a global network of leaders who deeply understand a concept-based approach, the incredible power of this approach will be abandoned before it's ever fully realised in schools around the world. We've seen that pendulum swing in education before, where something great gets thrown out before teachers have had the opportunity to unlock its potential. And the worst part is, it's the students who'll lose out if we see a pushback to the traditional drill and kill of facts and skills because we failed to help teachers understand that facts and skills provide the foundation for conceptual thinking. It's the students who miss out when teachers rob them of the opportunity to do the thinking and realize the potential of learning transfer. And the really scary thing is, everyone's future's at stake if this generation of students are not prepared to think critically, see opportunities, solve problems, and face the challenges of this new world that we live in. The time is now. We have to build a movement of educators who are able to lead the way, untangling all of those misconceptions and confidently providing clarity for educators who see the potential of concept-based approach but need a pathway to move forward. So, let me ask you this. Are you one of a special breed of educators who's looking to make an impact and be part of the future of education? Are you searching for a framework that will empower students and teachers alike to become independent thinkers with deep, lasting understandings? There's a growing need for educators like you who are willing to really invest time and effort to deeply understand concept-based curriculum design so that you can provide strong models, demonstrate classroom practice, and coach other educators. Imagine the ripple effect that comes from transforming education and developing a generation of learners capable of thinking for themselves and solving complex problems. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to become an Erickson and Lanning CBCI certified trainer? The Certification Institute offers advanced learning and development opportunities to prepare you with the understanding, knowledge, and skills to lead workshops and support schools with cutting-edge concept-based curriculum design. This certification could be right for you if you're an experienced educator or school leader ready to be part of this global movement. The Erickson and Lanning CBCI Trainer Certification is a 9-month online program designed to develop a deep understanding of concept-based curriculum and instruction so that you're able to fluently and confidently explain the principles to others. The program has been intentionally designed to provide you with a combination of online courses with self-paced learning through recorded video modules, live interactive Zoom sessions, and one-on-one coaching. The 4 online courses throughout the year are designed to deepen your understanding of concept-based curriculum and prepare you with all the information and resources you need to establish yourself as a trainer. Plus, the live interaction and the collaboration through our weekly Zoom calls, you get to practice crafting clear generalizations at different grade levels and in different subject areas so that you can confidently lead curriculum design. And through practice coaching sessions, you'll develop the skills to provide effective feedback and offer clarity in curriculum development that helps teachers to fix common curriculum design errors so that you can cut through the frustration. In addition, you'll also have the opportunity to participate in a series of concept-based lessons so that you can really experience what it's like to organize case studies in order to see patterns and make connections. Then, we'll guide you to deconstruct these lessons so that you can design your own learning experiences that empower students to think conceptually. Over the course of the year, you'll design and receive specific feedback on 3 concept-based units and 2 concept-based lessons that you can implement in your own school or classroom. The one-to-one coaching with our specialist team allows you to address misconceptions and hone your skills to truly unlock the power of a concept-based approach and coach others to do the same. Once certified, you'll also receive access to Dr. Erickson and Dr. Lanning's full set of presentation materials with videos of live training so that you can always refer back to them as you prepare to present. This is your opportunity to learn from highly experienced trainers who've field-tested CBCI presentations, so the structure follows a logical sequence, so that audiences are able to comfortably process the flow of ideas and experience success in their own unit design. Now, I recognise that this is not for everybody. In order to be a pedagogical leader in education, you need to be ready to invest in your own learning. The investment of time and finances is equivalent to that of a master's degree. However, this goes well beyond theory. The Erickson and Lanning CBCI trainer certification is filled with practical application, modelling, coaching, and collaboration, and it provides opportunities to transform your classroom practice, your curriculum, your school, and your career. This is for concept-based educators who are ready to deepen their understanding and move into leadership positions. So, if you're a passionate educator looking to lead professional development that can ignite educational change, and you're driven to be a leader in curriculum design and professional learning, joining a global movement of educators who are committed to transforming education as we know it, then it's time to act. We only have 60 places available this year to ensure the quality of your experience. Places will be filled by the first 60 people who are accepted into the program and confirm their place. This is an annual program, so if you're not starting this August, you'll have to wait another full year to apply. So, click the link below and complete your application today to secure your spot. All right, so as of this morning when I checked, we have filled already 39 of the places for this next year's Trainer Certification Institute that starts in August. We only have 60 spots available. So if you want to secure one of those places, do make sure that you click the button below and get your application in. Hopefully get it in this weekend before we send out the replay and share this with others so that you can secure one of those last places for the Trainer Certification Institute. Who is this for? So if you're wondering, would this be right for me? Would this help? Thank you to those of you who have shared your experience in the chat about the Trainer Certification Institute. It's lovely to see so much support and so many people who've had their own careers transformed through the Concept-Based Inquiry Trainer Certification Institute. As I said before, it absolutely changed the trajectory of my career. I now work as a full-time educational consultant, but that's not everybody's pathway. So we have lots of people who participate in the Trainer Certification Institute each year who are classroom teachers or team leaders and looking to most deeply understand concept-based inquiry so they can implement this in their own classroom. We also have school and district leaders, principals, directors of schools, and people who are working at the district, school district leadership in the United States level. We've had people who work for the International Baccalaureate in the past who've gone through the Trainer Certification Institute in order to be able to design curriculum. We have people who are participating in this as curriculum coordinators and coaches. If you're in a curriculum coordinator role and you're involved in supporting teachers in planning collaboratively, or you're involved in writing your own school curriculum, then you need to deeply understand how to tell the difference between conceptual understandings, knowledge, and skills, and be able to design curriculum in this way, and also develop the confidence in leading teachers in different subject areas. I think this is especially true for our MYP and DP teachers who come from one disciplinary background or maybe two, but then have to support teachers across all disciplines. So a big part of what we do in the Trainer Certification Institute is practice writing understandings, coaching each other with understandings in different subject areas so that we build confidence in recognizing what makes a strong understanding and when an understanding can be improved. And even if you can't rewrite it yourself, being able to coach and ask the right questions to improve the understanding. This is also powerful for people who want to work online as a coach. We now have quite a few of our certified trainers in the past who are working with us as coaches in our programs. We have people who've gone on to develop online workshops for us and who have been involved in developing model resources and curriculum design. So these are just a few of the people here who are all either certified trainers or are becoming certified trainers this year, who've worked with us on developing the CBI mathematics project pilot. Now, I want to show you two different videos now of people who've become certified trainers for very different reasons. So the first one is Enji Olama, who is a curriculum coordinator herself and who's sharing her experience in implementing that in school. So there's two short videos here.
Hi, I'm Injo Lama. I'm a happiness coach and a CBCI trainer and presenter. I work in an IB school in Dubai as the assistant head of PYP. I've done the institute and then we got to come together with Rachel, Tiffany and everyone, the community, and this is where I always feel this is where I belong to, and just the sense of community was amazing. The learning, the conversations, the informal conversations are priceless, so it's an amazing experience. 100%, yes. It's very it's a very important step in my career. I find it very useful. It allowed me to dig deep into my own understanding and transfer it to others. And even like coming from an IB background, I think it's the next step for IB educators to dig deep into the conceptual learning. This is what we're trying to apply and allow our students to, experience. It's very meaningful, and we want our students to have these important learning experiences to be able to apply the learning into real context and get exposure to different scenarios and case studies from around the world, and this is what the CBCI advocate for. Definitely. It's the depth of learning, the depth of understanding, taking the PYP forward and the application, even working with teachers. I work a lot with teachers, and I'm able to break it down to them into steps, and I'm able to scaffold the learning. The collaborative planning became more effective and more useful. We take clear steps and identifying our needs and taking our planning further.
All right, so as Enji shared in her video and her experience, being able to now take that leading role and feel confident in supporting teachers across the school is building that internal capacity that we were talking about. So whether you're a school leader and this is a right fit for you to participate in, or many school leaders are not looking to do it themselves, they're looking to build the capacity of other teachers within the school and invest in teachers within the school. And I want to show you a little bit more about what that looks like in a moment in terms of the investment. So the investment is significant. It's €7,490 to be a part of the year-long Trainer Certification Institute. So as I said in the video, this is equivalent to taking on a master's degree, both in terms of time and cost. But if you're a school leader and considering funding this, or if you're considering asking your school to support you with this, that is cheaper than a 2-day in-school workshop, especially when we take into consideration travel and accommodation costs of your workshop leader. It's also cheaper than having 10 staff participate in an online workshop. And then you've got that long-term capacity within your school. You've got someone who can build and coach and support teams in a regular, ongoing basis. So this does come back to building leadership capacity. What would building a team of coaches who deeply understand concept-based inquiry mean for your school? Let me know in the chat what transformations you would see in your school if you were able to build out teams of educators who could coach. Each year we have 2 or 3 schools who have 3 or 4 or 5. This year we had one who had 5 teachers going through the trainer certification together, because these schools know that that's what it takes to transform practice. You need to have teachers who haven't just read a book and then are the ones leading internal professional learning. There was a comment earlier that was about being able to differentiate professional learning. I can't see it now. but being able to respond to the needs of diverse teachers and not just have a cookie cutter approach to professional learning. I couldn't agree more. We had a school in January this year where we sent in 5 certified trainers, each with specialists in different subject areas, who were able to provide that kind of disciplinary lens on supporting this development. They had a world languages, an arts, a science, a literacy, and then primary teachers and a social studies certified trainer who are working with the staff as a whole. All right, any other questions before we finish up? Please go ahead and drop them into the chat. For those of you, we have gone just over time. For those of you who need to sign out, feel free to do so. But I'm also here live with you to answer any questions that you have. Just let me know in the chat. Somebody's saying, I would love to do this, but I think I'm priced out. Do you have any advice? I know schools sometimes pay half. So absolutely, schools do sometimes invest half. The advantage in having the school only pay half of it is around then being able to work independently. So going back to those numbers, thinking about it as an investment in the return that you can see when you're working as an independent trainer yourself, but also going to your school with that proposition in place. Sometimes people will have then an agreement with the school to say, I know that teachers have done this, who've gone and said, I'll sign a contract to stay 2 more years or 3 more years if you're able to sponsor my certification. And sometimes schools have also paid the full fee for teachers and then taken 50% of it out of their salary over 2 years, which is another option, another way that teachers can pitch it to the school so that both the teacher and the school can get that win-win. You can see from the comments above where some of our certified trainers have shared their experiences, the implications that this is having in schools around the world is paying off. You will need to go back to your school and say, look, there was one school who said to me, how on earth can we afford to pay for this? And I said to them, you've brought me here 3 times. You would have been able to pay for 3 teachers to do this trainer certification, and then they would be there long term to support. And so that was the last time I went there, and they've since had a couple of teachers certified. So just be thinking about it in that way. Paul's just popped the link to the application in the chat. Thank you, Paul. And it's also below this video. All right, so we do also have a PDF flyer about the trainer certification. If your school is, if you need to attach something to your professional learning, then feel free to just send us an email and we can give you a PDF that you can attach to your professional learning application for the school. All right, any other questions? Just let me know in the chat before we sign out. Otherwise, thank you so much for your commitment to showing up in the weekend for your own professional learning journey. You showing up is what keeps us doing these live masterclasses. We are just lining up the masterclasses for the next couple of months, so stay tuned and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much, everybody. It's always such a pleasure to connect.